So welcome to the third annual William F. Buckley Jr. Program Conference. We're thrilled to have all of you here. To start off, I just want to kind of talk a little bit about the Buckley program, that you don't know about it already. But we were started a few years ago to help promote intellectual diversity at Yale. And what started as kind of a quick idea for a speaker series blossomed into the organization that it is today. We do have speakers, the conference, panels, course offerings, internships, and a variety of other functions. While this might not be the biggest room of New York Times readers, you could have caught in the Times this summer that we just recently moving into a house. So the program that started 3 years ago, kind of as this brief idea, has really blossomed. A lot of that is due to people here. So we want to kind of start off today with saying thank you, and we hope you enjoy the next few hours ahead of us. It's fitting that to start today, we have Judge Buckley, whose background most of you already know quite well. But I think that what's interesting is that when we first started this as an idea, Judge Buckley was one of the quickest people to provide a helpful word or usher us through kind of the nitty-gritty of actually starting anything of value. And I remember taking out to lunch or coming to be one of our first guests, and just such a keen mind and Buckley spirit that kind of kept us going early on. So I think that there's no better person to start off the kind of tone of a conversation about the future of conservatism with the Buckley program than Judge Buckley. I'd like to ask him up right now.
Better open this so I don't have to struggle with it later. In any event, I'm delighted to welcome you to this third program of the third annual conference, not only because of the inherent interest of what we're about to hear, but because it gives me the opportunity to comment on the extraordinary progress of the program itself. If nothing else, it has established that Yale University continues to attract the brightest and the best. What the program's student sponsors, call them ideological entrepreneurs, have been able to achieve in the past 3 years is utterly breathtaking, and that they should have been inspired by the dazzling accomplishments of my precocious younger brother, is for me deeply moving. Thanks to their intelligence, imagination, energy, and organizational wizardry, what began as a hope to fill a yawning void in the Yale educational experience has in just 3 years established itself as the premier source of informed on-campus debate of a spectrum of the most important issues facing the American Republic today. Professor Donald Kagan described that void with wonderful clarity in his valedictory address this past summer, in which he brought to a close his 40 years of teaching at Yale, an address which, significantly enough, was delivered under the auspices of the program. In his remarks, he noted that among today's students, and I quote, "a firm belief in the traditional values and the ability to understand and the willingness to defend them are rare. Still rarer is an informed understanding of the traditions and institutions of our Western civilization and of our country, and an appreciation of their special qualities and values." He also observed that, and again I quote, "earlier generations who came to college with beliefs rooted in the past had been challenged by hard questioning and the requirement to consider alternatives, and were thereby unnerved and thereby liberated by the need to make reasoned choices. Today's liberal arts students, however, come to college bearing a sort of relativism verging on nihilism, and the education they receive in college these days is more likely to reinforce this condition than to change it. even less can students benefit from different opinions and approaches offered by their teachers, for faculty members with atypical views grow ever rarer on the campus. Professor Kagan noted that for years it had been his practice to ask his students to name professors whose views differed from the campus consensus. This past year, his students could name only 3 such mavericks out of the 700 members of the Yale Faculty of the Arts and Sciences. That describes the intellectual void at Yale that the Yale program's mission is the Yale program's mission to fill, and it is doing so in a variety of ways. Over the past year, it has brought national figures to New Haven to provide 3-dimensional analyses of controversial issues, presented seminars on a variety of critical subjects, and sponsored debates between able advocates of opposing views. The program has also provided a number of students with internships at publications whose views would no doubt appall the faculty. In short, it has succeeded in exposing the Yale community to perspectives that will encourage the free exchange of ideas and the presentation of unfashionable views that Professor Kagan identified in his valedictory remarks as vital to the university experience. As Yale alumni are demonstrating an uncanny ability these days to attain stratospheric positions in our national government, the names George Bush and John Kerry come to mind, it is of critical importance that such future leaders and those who vote for them understand the governmental and economic principles that for generations have underlain the American experience, even if they choose to reject them. The fact is, the issues facing us today have never been more significant as they bear on the future character of the American Republic. I can think of no time when it has been more important that Yale undergraduates be exposed to alternatives to the faculty consensus. In the years since I entered Yale, we have experienced a fundamental revolution in the way we govern ourselves. At that time, the pressing issues were whether Franklin Roosevelt should be anointed with a 3rd term in office or whether we should enter the European War. Pearl Harbor settled that last one for us, but the statist compulsions that characterized the New Deal and so shocked some of us at the time now seem quaint in the light of our subsequent conversion into a full-blown administrative state. The easiest way to dramatize the extent of that conversion is to note that in 1940, the year I came here, the United States Code consisted of just 2 volumes of federal statutes. By 2006, even before the enactment of the massive Obamacare and Dodd-Fish bills, the Code had grown to 30 volumes, and its statutes are in turn supplemented by the fine print regulations that now occupy almost 25 feet of shelf space. Those statutes and regulations have achieved the most fundamental transformation in the role and reach of the federal government, and they now affect virtually every aspect of our lives. They are also creating a network of dependencies that conservatives fear will undermine the spirit of independence and self-reliance that have characterized Americans since our country's founding. I may be showing my age, but I am among those who believe that we are reaching a pivotal point in our country's history. If present trends continue, I fear that in the next very few years, we may slip irretrievably into the smothering embrace of an all-caring state and all that that implies for the erosion of our personal freedoms. On the other hand, a combination of bureaucratic overreach, the threat of national bankruptcy, and, most importantly, well-articulated arguments in support of a slimmer government and of a return to our traditional reliance on individual initiative and the magic of free markets may yet turn the tide. Arguments in favor of those positions can best be made by a reinvigorated conservative movement that is capable of addressing today's problems in a language that will be understood by today's Americans. That is why the panel discussions we are about to hear should prove of particular interest. They should give us an idea of whether today's conservatives can develop the persuasive consensus on critical issues that characterize the conservative renaissance of the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, the renaissance that my brother Bill did so much to shape. But I ramble on. You came here to sample the program's wares. On with the show.